What is going on online fitness coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives, Make Money Online Training Podcast. This is the #1 show for online fitness coaches who are trying to grow a successful online business. In today's episode, we're talking about this idea that it's only competitive at the bottom and not at the top. Yo, for those of you guys that tune into my podcast, if you get value, a couple ways that you can help is I don't use ads for the podcast. So you could screenshot, share it to your Instagram stories, tag me at BMarkFit, tell a friend about it, or you could give me a rating on the podcast app. Use your thumbs. You got to go into my episodes, scroll all the way to the bottom of the episodes. You can leave me a star rating and a review, and I'll give you a shout out on the podcast. Okay, guys. So this weekend, Kirsten and I, we went house shopping. If you follow me on Instagram, I was posting pretty much all of the houses that we were looking at on my story. And Kirsten and I went house shopping. And honestly, you guys, the Kelowna market right now for houses is extremely hot. And, you know, the reason is like in Kelowna, we've got all these people that are moving from all these different cities that used to be hot spots. But now because of COVID, a city that used to be an amazing place to live, everything's locked down and everything's shut down and people want to get away from the environment. So places in Calgary or places in Vancouver that were super expensive, they're selling those houses and they're coming out to Kelowna and they're spending that $500,000 to $1 million on buying a home in Kelowna because you get like the lake, you get like the summer. So the Kelowna market is extremely hot right now, like extremely hot. As in, when I say extremely hot, like I was talking to my realtor and he was saying that if we were to buy a house right now for, you know, in the $500,000 to $750,000 range, which is like average in Kelowna, if we were to buy a house in that range, there's about like 10 to 15 offers per house right now. So it's extremely hot. So Kirsten and I were like looking through these houses and we were like taking a look at like some different places that we want to live. And guys, for me and Kirsten at this point in our relationship, like we're getting married in August. So we're looking at moving, and us looking at moving, we don't just want to move. Like we want to get our dream house. Like we want to move into our dream place. Like we want to move into our dream house. Like we're getting married in August. After we get married, our plan is to have a little Brian Mark. It's going to be a boy. Speaking that into the universe. It's going to be a boy. So we're getting married in August, and then we're going to have a baby boy. And when we have our baby boy, we want our dream house. So that's what we're looking at right now. Is we've been renting for the last year, basically saving up so that we can buy our dream house. And so me and Kirsten are looking at houses, and the houses that we're looking at, like pools in the backyard, is like the optimal. So we're looking at houses, and those houses are in like the $1.5 to $2 million range. Now, my realtor actually informed me that Kirsten and I would have a lot of time to think about our decision. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because you also just told me that the Kelowna market is super hot for houses right now. So like, how do we have a lot of time to think about our decision? Because like you told me that there's 10 to 15 offers per house. He's like, yes, there's 10 to 15 offers per house, but those are the houses that are between $500,000 to $750,000. He's like, because you guys are looking at houses that are like $1.5 to $2 million, there's not a lot of people that are making offers on them. And that got me like thinking. So on the drive back from the place that we were going to back to our house, I brought this up to Kirsten. I'm like, it's really weird that like, I feel like it's like that. The fact that we're going through this right now, looking at, you know, getting a house it's like a perfect representation that it's always super competitive at the bottom and it's never competitive at the top, ever. I'm going to give you guys an example. So let's say that you guys were to go out and buy a new phone. You guys are going to go out and you're going to buy a new phone. What kind of phone are you going to buy? You're going to go out and you're going to buy a phone. What kind of phone are you going to buy? Right? When we think about buying a new phone, it's usually like there's a couple options, but iPhone is usually the first thing in that conversation. When you think about buying a phone, like the first thing that you think about is usually an iPhone or Android, right? Or Samsung. Those are like the top three. But there are other phone brands that sell phones, right? You guys remember BlackBerry? I don't think anybody remembers BlackBerry. You guys remember BlackBerry? Or there's other, I don't even know the other phone brands, to be completely honest. But when we think about buying a phone, we think about buying an iPhone. Why? Because it's been around for a while. It's got a strong reputation. A lot of people know about it, and a lot of people have them, right? See, if I were to start, let's say that Brian Mark wanted to start this like entrepreneurial venture where I'm like, I'm going to start a phone company, right? If I were to start a phone company right now and try to sell phones, I'd have a really fucking hard time breaking into the market because there's already top dogs, and I'm just like a person selling phones. In fact, I know that there are other brands that are trying to start mobile companies right now, but they all have to compete with the iPhone. And they all basically have to fight for scraps. Like whatever's left, whatever percentage of the population doesn't buy iPhones and Androids will purchase the other phones, right? And so it's always super, super, super competitive at the bottom and not at the top. Now I'm going to give you guys another example. So when I was running my fitness business, Aesthetic Nation, when I first started running my coaching business in Calgary, guys, like I was friends with a lot of online trainers that were in the same area. And guys, whether or not we'd like to admit it, this is the fucking truth, right? Whether or not we'd like to admit it, when I first started my business, there were other trainers that I was competing with in the same market. We all had similar incomes. We all were competing for similar businesses, and we all were basically going after the same clients, whether or not we'd like to admit it. I know that like we have these conversations. I know that people frequently have these conversations. It's like, you're not competing with other trainers, you're competing with yourself. But like, if there's 6 trainers in Calgary and there's 100 clients in Calgary, and this is just an example, but like certain people are going to get the clients, right? So whether or not we'd like to admit it, we were all competing for the same clients. Now, I started my fitness coaching business, and then I was consistent for 4 years straight. Like it was like consistent over time, just consistently showing up on live streams, on not on podcasts, on live streams, on posts, on Instagram stories, all of it. Now, over the course of the next 4 years, I became one of the top trainers in Calgary. And once I became one of the top trainers in Calgary, it was no longer a challenge for me to get clients. I was so consistent that I rose to the top. And over the time, I became one of the elite trainers in Calgary. And once I became elite, it was no longer a competition because everybody would just start to come to me, right? My brand was all over the city. Like people were wearing my Aesthetic Nation shirts, and you either loved me or you hated me. But it wasn't until I got to the top that I was no longer competing with anybody else. And guys, like if you're I think this is the reason that I think that a lot of people, like this is the core message from this podcast, and we're going to get into this, is like, once you get to the top, it's not competitive anymore. But so many people don't push themselves to that fucking level because so many people operate under the assumption that it's always going to be that hard. Guys, when you're growing your coaching business, when you just get started, it's fucking challenging. Like getting your first 10 to 20 clients can be a challenge. It can be a grind, especially if you're just starting your Instagram, you're just starting to post on social media. Like getting those first 10 to 20 to 30 clients can be a challenge. One of my clients, Caleb Zisk, is a perfect example of this. I remember Caleb Zisk came into my program, and for the first 30 days, he signed maybe 1 or 2 clients, maybe, right? And then in the next 30 days, he signed 2 or 3 more. Grinding, right? Just grinding. The next 30 days, he actually got to 5K in his 3rd month. Now Caleb's over $10,000 a month. But it was like, because you're like, when you first get something started, it's fucking challenging. And like you're competing against other trainers, and you're also competing with yourself to really get your brand off the ground. Like so many online trainers never take themselves to the level of fucking elite because they think that it's always going to be as hard as it is when they're starting. And so they never push past the point where most people break. And if you're an online coach right now and you're just getting started, it's fucking competitive, right? It's competitive because you're at the bottom right now. And the truth is, online trainers, like you're going to struggle to compete with other trainers while you're at the bottom. Straight up. Another thing is like, whether or not you'd like to admit it, you are in competition with other online trainers. You're all in the same you're all online. You're all like competing for clients. And so you're going to struggle to compete with other trainers if you are just posting enough to get by right now. Like if you're posting 2 to 3 times a week right now, you're going to struggle to compete because you're competing with other trainers. And everybody online is posting 2 to 3 times a week. So everybody online is fighting for those like same scraps of clients. Like you're going to struggle to grow your online coaching business right now if you're not going live consistently. If you're not trying to be the fucking best in your space, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle with other online trainers right now. If you're going to compete with other online trainers if you're only on Facebook and Instagram right now. Because guess what? Now we have TikTok. Now we have Clubhouse. Now we have LinkedIn. And so if you're not like over time learning these platforms, then you're also making the decision that you just want to be another one of those online trainers that's just competing with everybody else. You're going to struggle by competing with other trainers if you're only putting the minimum amount of work in required to sign a couple of clients. Because guess what? It's only competitive at the bottom. It's not competitive at the top. Who here knows Don Lamb? Who here knows Don Lamb? My nose is runny, by the way. I don't know why. I think maybe it's the coffee. Who knows Don Lamb? Who knows who Don Lamb is? Guys, Don Lamb is like the elite, right? Don Lamb is making $100,000 a month. He's been my client for the last 9-10 months. Don Lamb is like elite, right? Don Lamb doesn't struggle anymore because Don Lamb is like at the top. Don Lamb is like Don Lamb. When people think like they want to get shredded, they like a lot of clients are going to Don Lamb. Like Don Lamb is at the top. Now, a lot of online trainers that are currently like growing right now, they're like growing, they want to get to that level, right? But a lot of online trainers are just doing enough to get by. And so because they're doing enough to get by, they're competing with all the other 95% of online trainers that are also just competing to get by. You know, it's funny. How many of you guys have ever heard the crabs in the bucket analogy? Crabs in the bucket analogy, where, you know, we've got a bunch of crabs that are in a bucket. And when you've got these crabs in the bucket, and like what'll happen is like they'll try to climb up to the top. One of the crabs will try to climb up to the top, and then the other crabs will just fucking and like pull them back down, right? And so there's like crabs in a bucket. They're all in a bucket. One crab tries to like climb to the top of the bucket, and the other crabs will literally just pull them the fuck back down. And whether or not we like to admit it, that's human beings too. Straight up, most human beings are just crabs in a bucket. And you start to compete. You start to like, you know, put yourself out there a little bit more, and you start to post on your social media and like go really hard in your online coaching business. And then a crab in a bucket's going to fucking, probably one of your friends or family members is going to come up to you and be like, man, you're posting a lot of fitness shit on social media. Like you're posting a lot of fitness shit. Like I unfollowed you because you post so much fitness stuff. You're always on your story talking about fitness this and fitness that. Fucking crab in a bucket. And that's human beings. Human beings will literally just pull each other the fuck down because everybody likes to stay on an even keel, and everybody's just competing with everybody else until one person just literally makes the fucking decision to elevate, AKA Don Lamb, DIY Body. Who else? Who here knows Chad Morgan? Chad Morgan, anybody? Chad Morgan's one of my clients. He rose to the top, and now he's staying there. His business crushes it every single month because he's Chad Morgan. It's not competitive at the top. A lot of you guys are like seeing these crazy numbers like Don Lamb, Chad Morgan, et cetera. You're like, how do they get to that level? It's like they made the decision to be fucking elite. And then once they're fucking elite, they just stayed there. Period. Most people never get there because they're just focused on doing enough to get by. Period. Most people compete until they get just enough clients to get by, and then they take their foot off the gas pedal. And so they'll never feel like what it's like to get to the top, because as soon as they get close, they realize that it's going to take so much energy and effort to get to the top and stay there that they just back off. Period. It's kind of like training for a fitness competition, right? So I want you guys to imagine that you're training for a fitness competition, and it's like before you train for a fitness competition, actually, you start to train, you're working out, you're exercising, and then you get your body to this like certain level, and you're like, oh, I'm good. And in order to train for a fitness competition, you need to take your physique to the next level. You need to train yourself to be elite. And like, in order to train yourself to be elite, you have to push yourself that extra level and really like dig deep and go fucking hard. And that's what it takes with your coaching business too. But then once you get to an elite level shape, it's pretty easy to maintain it. And like, I'm going to talk about this for online trainers. If you're an online fitness coach, a lot of my clients that have gotten to $10,000 a month will be able to attest to this. Once you get to 10K a month, once you're at 10K a month, it's pretty fucking easy to stay there. Straight up. Like once you're actually at $10,000 a month, it's pretty easy to stay there. Like getting to 10K a month can be really challenging because not only do you need to like learn the systems and the strategy, but you also need to like get like right up here. But once you become capable of making that kind of money, it's game over. It's like, it's literally easy because it's only competitive at the bottom. It's not competitive at the top. See, the reason that you're struggling, online coach, is you've never pushed yourself through the point where most people break. Like you've never pushed yourself to that level. As soon as you push yourself, you're pushing yourself in your business and you're growing and you're grinding. And then you get to a point where it gets really fucking hard. And instead of digging deeper and pushing through, you back off. And that's why you're struggling. You have a week where you get no people reaching out to you, asking you about your coaching service. You take that shit super personally, you back off. And guess what? You're back in the sea of competition with everybody else that's an online coach. Like, you need to push through. You need to be elite. And the reason that a lot of you guys don't push yourself to that level is because you operate under this delusion that it's always going to be as hard as it is right now. But guys, once you're elite, like once you're fucking elite, it's not easy, but it's a lot more easy to maintain. Getting to the elite level is challenging as shit. But once you're actually elite, like you're performing at a high level consistently, you're showing up, you're signing clients, you've got assist. Once you're there, that's pretty easy to maintain. But it's getting there that's the hard part. Like, once you're successful, you know what it takes. All you have to do is keep playing at that level. All you need to do is keep walking the path. But getting to that level is fucking challenging, because as you're growing your coaching business, right? Like, as you're signing clients and starting to position yourself as an expert on social media, you have fucking crabs in the bucket that are trying to chop you off at the knees. Who are you to like say that you're an expert? And like, what makes you so qualified to be working with all these clients? And who are you to be posting all this fitness motivation shit? And like, people are fucking cutting you off at the knees, saying fucking shit to you. And then you've got like your own internal chatter that you need to deal with. So like, you're trying to grow yourself to an elite level. And as you're on your journey to grow your coaching business, you're like, am I fucking cut out for this? Like, is this possible? Like, am I going to be able to make this? And you start questioning yourself at every turn. But once you develop some fucking self-confidence and you just keep moving forward, and you're no longer fazed by the opinions of sheep that are trying to drag you back down, you become unstoppable. Like, guys, I really want somebody to fucking listen to this and like actually take this to heart. Like, in order to be successful, you need to push yourself through the point where most people break. There's a reason that 10% of my students have crossed the 10,000. Like, I've worked with probably about 11. I don't know the exact number. It's over 1,000. It's probably over 1,100 students that I've coached in the 10K Academy, and 123 of them are over $10,000 a month. There's a reason that 10% of people cross it. And usually when you cross it, you stay there, by the way. And the other ones are still growing. It's because like getting to an elite fucking level, like getting to the top, isn't only about the strategy. And I think that most people think it's about the strategy. Most people think like, oh, I want to get to $10,000 a month, so I'm going to hire Brian Mark, and that's fucking it, right? I'm just going to hire Brian Mark, and then that's it, and that's all I need to do. That's not the case. Like, getting, like, the reason that 10% of my students cross the $10,000 a month barrier is because it not only takes the strategy, as in the program, as in the blueprint, but it also takes the individual looking at themselves in the fucking mirror and deciding that they're just going to be one of those people that cross 10K. Like, my favorite thing in the world is when I get one of my clients that will DM me. They'll literally be like, yo, I'm coming for a spot in your bio. I'm like, good. Like, that's like that's the first step. Like, making the decision, like, I'm going to cross $10,000 a month. Like, that's the first step. Most people think it's just about the strategy. That's just not the case, right? I get a lot of people ask me, they're like, yo, B Mark, like, you've worked with 1,000 students. Like, why do you only have 100 of them over $10,000 a month? And my reply is every time is like, I can't control your fucking work ethic, and I can't control your psychology. And I also can't control how bad you want it. Like, my job as a coach is to guide you and light the way and be like, this is the best strategy to generate leads on LinkedIn. This is the best strategy to generate leads on TikTok. This is the best strategy to generate leads on Instagram, on Facebook. But like, I can't make you do those things. Only you can. Guys, this is the core message from this podcast. I want you to write this down. It's only competitive at the bottom. It's only competitive at the bottom. Period. Guys, if you want to be successful, if you want to get to an elite level, I want to give you some solace, and I want you to understand that, like, once you get to that level, it's pretty easy to maintain. Those of you guys that are my clients tuning in right now that have crossed $10,000 a month, can you attest to this? Like, once you're at 10K, it's pretty easy to stay there. But it's getting to that level that's the challenging part. It's getting to yourself to a point where you're making $10,000 a month, because you need to become the person that's capable of making that money, which means you need to let go of the opinions of all the sheep that thinks that you can't do it. You also need to like embrace your own internal self-confidence and know that it doesn't matter what fucking comes in your way, that you're gonna burst through all barriers and you're gonna become elite. And then once you make that decision, it's pretty easy to maintain. And then it's no longer competitive because like you're at the top, people are gonna come to you. You understand what I'm saying? Guys, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Change Lives Make Money Online Training Podcast. I don't want you to compete with everybody else. I want you to be elite. I want you to be one of the top. I want you to be one of the top performers. And like, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, but I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't know if I'm capable of that. Like, I don't know if I'm qualified to be hitting $10,000 or if I'm qualified to be one of the elite. Like, guys, who the fuck am I? Like, who am I to tell you that, right? I'm just a dude that was born and raised in a trailer park. I didn't meet my dad until I was 26 years old. My mom had me when she was 17 years old. Like, I was raised by my grandma, didn't go to university. Who the fuck am I to tell you guys this? Like, I just claimed it. And if I can claim it and I can come from a fucking trailer park and I was a drug addict and I didn't meet my dad, so I didn't have a role model and I didn't go to university, like, why the fuck can't you claim it? Like, why can't you just claim it? Why can't you just make the decision? Like, I'm going to be fucking elite. And like, people might not know who I am right now. And I might like have like 100 Instagram followers right now. And I might not be like as lean as I want to be right now. And I might not have the business or the body that I want, but like, I'm going to be fucking elite because I just decide so. Like, who are you? Like, who am I? I'm just a person that made a decision. And if I can fucking do it, so can you. That's it. That's all. It's only competitive at the bottom. So rise to the top. Peace.